UFC 320 Preview Roundtable. Can Alex Pereira get his mojo back against Magomed Ankalaev? And what about Merab Dvalishvili? Or Paul Hughes? It's time to ask the burning questions in our big weekend roundtable. Flashback to this time last year and Alex Pereira was the talk of the UFC. He had saved some of the biggest pay-per-view cards of the year, and he defended his title for the third time against a headhunting Khalil Rountree Jr. It looked like he was headed toward immense fights at both heavyweight and light heavyweight. Then Magomed Ankalaev showed up, or Muhammad Ankalaev, as he's now calling himself. It wasn't an emphatic beatdown that he put on Pereira at UFC 313 in March, but it was effective enough to take his title. This weekend they play it back at UFC 320 in Las Vegas. And there are so many questions. Namely, is the Usman Nurmagomedov Paul Hughes fight sneakily the best one of the weekend? 1. Given that Alex Pereira was the UFC's savior in 2024, doesn't his rematch with Magomed Muhammad Begong feel like it should be a bigger deal? P2C, it should definitely feel bigger, but the Lats have managed to conjure some late intrigue based on that weird exchange they had, thanks to Google Translate and ChatGPT. It's crazy to think of how enthusiasm can be quelled on someone like Pereira so quickly. He was the savior of the promotion in 2024. We were all concerned he would hijack the heavyweight title fight with Jon Jones and leave Tom Aspinall out in the cold. He loses one close decision to Begong, and suddenly things have fizzled. The crazy thing is, I feel like he's putting himself out there more than ever and it's just not hitting in the same way. Chuck, is it even possible for Begong to move the needle? That needle might as well be Thor's hammer for the Dagestani milquetoast, who is probably a big old gentle giant outside the cage. I like to imagine him sniffing flowers like Ferdinand the Bull. No, the buzz isn't what you'd hope, but I think there's an unspoken kind of hysteria swirling around it. Like fans don't want to look this fight straight in the eye. They don't want to think too deeply about an extended Ankalaev run. There's this notion that perhaps it was an off night last time for Poten, that he was hurt or distracted or a little trigger shy, and that he'll set things right Saturday night. In other words, the buzz is more inward this time. But I think it'll be hurting our ears come fight night. In other words, the buzz is more inward this time, but I think it'll be hurting our ears come fight night. 2. If Alex Pereira comes up short Saturday, will there still be interest in him moving to heavyweight? Chuck, it's wild to me how quiet things have been with Pereira and his camp since he lost the title to Ankalaev, and obviously if he starches Onk in the rematch the UFC would get him the hell away from Ankalaev. There wouldn't be a trilogy. And if they were going to make a kind of historic 3-division champion super fight, that would be the time. But if he loses? P2C, if he loses I don't think the interest will be the same. We were licking our chops at the idea of him fighting Tom Aspinall not all that long ago, but wouldn't it just seem like Tom would just set Pereira on fire like he was the Wicker Man? I don't think it would be seen as all that competitive of a fight. If he goes up and fights a top 5 type guy, there would be curiosity, but I don't think it would be the blockbuster it was meant to be. P2C, I agree with everything you're saying here, my friend. However, even if it wasn't competitive and even if the interest wasn't there like it once would have been, is there anyone at heavyweight that could compel the same kind of intrigue if Tom does Tom things to Sergane? For me, that's gotta be the plan. For Team Pereira if they come up short against Begong, again, what are the alternatives? Wait around at 205 for a trilogy fight or, even worse, deplete yourself to make 185 in the hopes of overcoming the worst style matchup on planet Earth in the shape of Khamzat Chimaev? Can't see either of those things happening. 3. Merab Dvalishvili has won 13 fights in a row, already with 2 title defenses this year alone. If he beats Corey Sandhagen, is he the best bantamweight ever? P2C, I know most old heads like us have cited Dominic Cruz when we're asked about the bantamweight GOAT for many years. But I think Merab is definitely in that conversation now. I don't think you could argue with anyone who has him as the greatest bantamweight of all time, but I find it very intriguing that you've asked this question, Chuck. We've been doing this thing for a long time now and I know that you start to get very nervous when fighters start to get that air of invincibility about them. Is it safe to say that Merab is in that neck of the woods now? Chuck, safe as hell. P2C, even uttering the question comes with dire consequences. We've seen it a million times. But, it's almost like Merab's the great equalizer, isn't it? Dom Cruz struggled to make the walk for all those years, Yet when he did he was mostly brilliant. Merab makes the walk twice as much as most champions, the counter cruise if you will, and he's a true godsend to the UFC. They book him into all these fights so that he doesn't kill himself running down loose gravel hillsides and diving into icy ponds. Recency bias is as big in our sport as the Octagon girls, Peterson, and I'm not immune to it myself, but I really do believe if Merab blasts Sandhagen, he is at least 1B on the list of all-time bantamweight greats with Cruz. He is. 4. What is Corey Sandhagen's path to victory? Chuck, you know, I visited Corey out in Denver in early September, and he was drilling for the inevitable onslaught of Merab shooting in on him ceaselessly. The one thing I can say is they know exactly what Merab is going to do. They have seen plenty of tape, and Dvalishvili doesn't stray too much from the game plan because he doesn't have to. I think he needs to do what his coach Trevor Whitman told me he should, which is fight offensively, meaning, don't fight to defend the takedown so much as punishing the takedown attempts, winning in close exchanges on the fence, winning scrambles. If he can just give Merab any hesitation, and not break in the process, there might be an opening for him to do something special. Peterson, that's such a great mentality to have going into a fight. Thank God he's relying on Trevor Whitman and not me, because my knee-jerk reply to this question was don't get tired. I think Umar Nurmagomedov showed a great game plan over the first 2 rounds of his meeting with Merab, but he just didn't have the gas tank to execute it when the championship rounds kicked in. Merab knows he will beat any man alive in a war of attrition, so hurting him early has got to be Corey's mo on Saturday night. 5. No matter the outcome in the main event, is the Jiri Prochazka vs. Khalil Rountree winner in line for a title shot next? Or does Ankalaev have to win for that to be the case? Peterson, Jiri and Khalil are in the optimum spot to claim the next shot given that they are fighting on the same card as the champion, but I still think a lot has to go right for them. Despite the poor ticket sales in Perth, Carlos Ulberg dispatched Dominic Reyes in effortless fashion, and the spectacle of the stoppage will certainly work in his favor. I think that's an important factor here too. We've been around too long to simply say that Jiri and Khalil will definitely deliver as a fight, even though it seems like it has to. You'd certainly think a win for Pereira and Rountree would set up a championship rematch. If Jiri wins in dominant fashion, it could be an ideal setup for a victorious Big Onk. But I still don't know if I can rule out Ulberg completely until I see how the fight plays out. Chuck, I do think Ulberg finally made the statement the UFC has been waiting on in dispatching Dom Reyes in the first round on that card you mentioned. I was beginning to wonder if it was the increased spotlight that made Ulberg gun-shy, or if it was the step up in competition, having those decisions over Volkan Ozdemir and Jan Blachowicz. Anyway, he made his statement. If Pereira wins, I can see Ulberg being next. If Ankalaev wins, I can see Ulberg being next, too, but I can equally see him facing the winner of Rountree Prochazka, given that he's never fought either. I guess it's good that there are viable options for any outcome here, but I can tell you, the UFC would rather be contemplating Pereira's next title defense, and that's a mind-and-haul guarantee. Bonus, outside of the top 3 bouts, what's the best fight on UFC 320? And is it even in the UFC? Chuck, on the UFC side of things, give me the Abbas Magomedov and Joe Pyfer fight on this one. Abbas hasn't had a fight night bonus since his debut against Dustin Stoltzfus. I think Pyfer can bring a good fight out of him, and he'll want to deliver given that he's kicking off the pay-per-view. Pyfer's win against Marc-Andre Barrio was a fun fight, and I think this one has the potential to be a battle. Abbas will bring it. And remember, Peterson, Abbas is an E away from abuse, and Pyfer puts the onus in bonus. This Susian moment has been brought to you by Dude Wipes. Peterson, poetry. Chuck, pure poetry, sir. But you already know my hot take. How about this? The best fight of the weekend is not taking place at UFC 320. It's going down in Dubai, where Usman Nurmagomedov and Paul Hughes will redo their Fight of the Year nominee from January. Absolutely love the fight and honestly, love the Dairyman's chances. That said, this is home game for Usman. I thought Paul won a very close fight the first time around, which makes me think he'll have to get the finish this time around. It's a blockbuster weekend. Chuck, good call. There was no way we were getting out of the weekend roundtable without mention of Paul Hughes. That first fight was tremendous, and I can't wait to see how this plays out.